impossible has happened. Unbelievable. No record for human life. Off to the races. Can they catch it?
Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop
Look
that
out,
man.
here comes the blue coat,
Oh,
Kevin.
they got him.
Here
They're
comes
coming
the
from
blue
the
coats.
left. Oh, and they tackle him at the 40-yard line.
I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love.
And now for our feature presentation.
Balls Deep with Devin and Jovan.
Welcome to Balls Deep with Devin and Jovan. I'm your host, Devin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jovan. This is where we dive into the hottest stories in sports. We dive balls deep into the hottest stories in sports. And we're going to start off with, what's most recent. So today is actually, the end of the trade deadline for the NFL. So we're going to hop in and talk about the NFL trade deadline and some of the moves that happened. But to start off, it was a pretty slow trade deadline, to say the least. It almost made it seem like everyone was stuck in line for their voting poll for Election Day, because the only trades that happened on the trade deadline day was the two trades that involved the Dolphins. So, just to sum up everything that went on since our last episode, the Jets traded linebacker Avery Williamson to the Steelers. Avery Williamson and a 2022 7th-round pick to the Steelers for a 2022 5th-round pick. The Chargers traded defensive back Desmond King to the Titans for a 6th-round pick. 49ers traded Quan Alexander to the Saints for linebacker Kiko Alonso and a conditional 5th-round pick. The Chiefs traded DeAndre Washington and a 2021 7th-round pick to the Dolphins for a 2021 6th-round pick. And the Dolphins traded receiver Isaiah Ford to the Patriots for a 2022 6th-round pick, which that was a rare move because it's just in the division, didn't really see that coming, almost out of left field. But we're going to talk about it. I'll let you talk about it a little bit, and then we'll jump in to what was our favorite move and what move we wish we would have seen. But floor is yours.
Yeah, I wish there was a little bit more action. Honestly, there wasn't much that happened at all today. Usually, day of, you get some breaking news for something big happening. But there was a lot of moves from a lot of teams. The 49ers got a linebacker, obviously in exchange for another linebacker, but also a pick. We know they had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball early on in the season. Also, the Chiefs getting a few more picks, probably trying to re-up, maybe get some picks to try to trade up at some point in the draft, or even just, get some players for the future. But I really like the Titans pickup of defensive back Desmond King. They started the season off well, but in the past few games, they've been kind of getting exposed in their secondary, which is really the big reason that they've kind of struggled in the last few weeks. So I really like that move. Of all moves, that was probably my favorite, just considering because of all the teams. It was a lot of moves by teams that, some teams that really didn't need to get better, but the Titans definitely improved in a position where they needed to. So I thought that was probably my favorite move.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that part. I think Desmond King is very underrated, and I think he was a Pro Bowler not that long ago. Or All-Pro DB. I forget exactly which one it is, but he's very good. He just got very overshadowed in that Charger secondary, just with them adding Chris Harris Jr. But then now he moved to safety with Derwin James being injured. I think he's very versatile. I think he's exactly what the Titans needed. He's a player that I would have liked the Giants to trade for if they were buyers. But in that like we're not going anywhere, so fuck it. But the Titans, I think this was a great move on their part. I think this trade was actually very one-sided. I think the Chargers could have got a lot more out of him, or a lot more for him, but they just didn't. And I think he's going to be very valuable to the Titans secondary. They've dealt with injuries, so Adoree Jackson is their best, or is their cornerback one, and as of right now, but he's been injured, and they've been having to rely on Malcolm Butler, who's not the Malcolm Butler of old, and Jonathan Joseph, who's old as shit. I don't even understand why he's still on the fucking field, but he's getting dusted left and right. So when Adoree Jackson comes back, having that second corner to help out is going to be nice, but if he's not back, you have that reliable corner to rely on. He could play the slot. I'm pretty sure he could play outside. He can even play safety if need be, but they have Kenny Vaccaro and Kevin Byard back there, so they should be good on that set. Yeah. But I think they improved a lot with this one move. But to touch on a different trade, my other favorite trade was the Avery Williamson trade to the Steelers. The Steelers, they lost Devin Bush. And you seen what he made with the difference he made on that defense last year when they drafted him. So I know, like the fact that he got hurt, it was a big blow to that defense. We seen the time from when they the time Ryan Shazier got hurt until they drafted Devin Bush. Not having a linebacker hurt that defense, especially when they're in win now mode. So going out and getting someone like a athletic Avery Williamson is going to be nice for them. But I really like this move for the simple fact that homeboy went from the winless Jets to the undefeated Steelers, and his Instagram post was priceless. He was all dressed up in his Jets gear with his thumbs up, and I think Manhattan with a fucking umbrella. That shit was hilarious. So I give him full credit, and I think that Instagram post probably pushed it to be my favorite.
I mean, he went from winless to, undefeated, so.
You can't complain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was definitely some interesting trades. A lot of good teams got better, for sure. Obviously, I think, like you said, Williamson is going to help the Steelers a lot. But also, the one spot that the Titans needed, like we both said, was corner. That's the one spot they've been getting exposed, and they kind of, they addressed it. Which was huge for them. And like you said, it's one piece, but that's a piece that I believe could make a difference whether or not, they make an early exit of playoffs or maybe try and make a deep run. Because it would have really been tough to try to defend a lot of those playoff teams when you start to get there and start to have to face those, high caliber offenses week in and week out.
Exactly. So we're gonna shift over and talk about a move that we wish would have happened that didn't happen. Since I started last time, I'll let you start this time. So what is a move you wish would have happened?
I really wish that Washington would have moved on from Dwayne Haskins. I love the guy. What's that?
It's a poor guy.
Yeah, I love the guy. I mean, being not just being an Ohio State fan, but knowing that he's underrated. I mean, he was put in a poor situation from day one. And he's a guy that I wanted to come out. I wanted the Giants to get him. I wanted to see him come out. I wanted to see him succeed. And he was just put in a bad team with bad management, bad everything, bad ownership, bad leadership. And I really wish they would have just moved on from him, got rid of him and put him on the team.
Everything.
I mean, I wish they would have sent him to a team like I believe we had mentioned last episode, so a team like the Colts, that has a solid defense, solid offense, and really is just a solid QB away from, really being a serious contender. I mean, they have Phillip Rivers, who currently can't take care of the ball. But with the offense that they have at the Colts right now, I think that Dwayne Haskins would fit perfectly. I think just Phillip Rivers being there as like a mental guy would be perfect. In terms of him, getting comfortable in that system, getting comfortable playing quarterback at the professional level. That's something he really didn't get in Washington as much, with Alex Smith not really being with the team, going through his, injury and recovery process. So
I feel for the guy because I feel like if he knew this was going to happen, he would have stayed in college. And I think that probably would have been better for his development. But, I mean, I don't blame him for, going to the league when that quarterback class was very, I don't know what you call it. It wasn't very deep. I mean, a lot of people had him marked as QB2, and especially after the year that he had and he was in the Heisman hunt. I don't blame the guy for, going out and trying to, secure the bag. But that just was a terrible situation for him to land. I was like you. I was hoping the Giants got him, but
and I mean now you might hear people saying, "Oh, he sucks and he's a bust."
Yeah, I don't think he sucks. I just think
he's put in such a poor situation. And honestly, of any player in the league, I just wish that he was given an opportunity. I mean, it's similar to the Josh Rosen thing, but we've seen him get that second chance to sit behind Brady, sit on the practice squad of the Bucs, and kind of learn. And I mean, now when he comes out, I mean, who knows what he'll get better. He could be a stud. And I mean, that's a similar situation I'd like to see somebody like Haskins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot sooner rather than later. I think with Rosen, it was pretty much too late. Everyone pretty much gave up on the guy, especially. But he was put in poor situations too, with Arizona getting the first pick, and then the Dolphins getting traded to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins getting a spot where they could get their guy that they wanted from the get-go. So, well, for me, losers of the trade deadline would have to be the Packers. We marked them as losers in the draft. I gotta mark them losers for the deadline too.
Yeah.
This is strike two. They still haven't got my man Aaron Rodgers a fucking weapon at all. Man, the thing is, there was rumors that they were in very aggressive talks with the Texans to get Will Fuller, and then they were very hesitant because I guess the Texans had a high price range or asking price for everyone, even besides Will Fuller. But they weren't sure if they wanted to pull the trigger on an elite receiver for the short term. And I have to say that was got to be the most stupidest shit you would have to say when your quarterback is literally phasing out. The window for opportunity to win another Super Bowl with that guy is very slim to none. Why wouldn't you pull the trigger and go for it? And if it pans out, you could always re-sign the guy. It's not that big of a fucking deal. And even then, even outside of the receivers, they didn't even have to go get Will Fuller. They could have got Kenny Stills, but even if they didn't want to deal with the Texans because of their asking price, you could have got fucking John Ross for a bag of Skittles. He wanted out. He literally said, "I just want to play. I just want to play." You're looking for a speedster, okay? To go opposite of Devontae Adams. So this is the cheapest speedster you're gonna fucking get, and the fact that you didn't go get him is they got to know something that we don't. And Alan Lazard has got to be coming back, but even then, there's other guys that they could have went and got, and just not getting Aaron Rodgers piece on offense just blows my mind. And even without the receivers, they've been getting run all over on that defense. You see what fucking Dalvin Cook did? What was he at? 4 touchdowns? Yep. On Sunday, they need a linebacker. They missed Blake Martinez. It shows that he's a tackling machine.
I mean, Blake Martinez has been great for the Giants.
I know. I'm not complaining, but
yeah.
but you can definitely tell they're missing him. I think even when they had him, linebacker was an issue, and even without him, it just got worse. So I think they need to make a move, and the fact that they didn't make any moves. Yes, they'll be in the playoff picture or the championship picture for the NFC, but do I see them as a Super Bowl contender or winning the Super Bowl? No, and that's because they weren't aggressive enough to, make the moves necessary.
Yeah, I mean, they really needed a speedster to stretch the field. I mean, when you have such a talented quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, such a talented receiver like Devontae Adams, having a guy like, a John Ross or Will Fuller stretch the field and open the field up really for Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I mean, Honestly, they'd have a field day at that point on offense. I mean,
even when Alan Lazard would come back, they would have another weapon to add to the group.
I mean, we already seen what Aaron Rodgers has been capable of doing, at least a little bit earlier in the season. Slow down a bit now, but that's due to the lack of weapons there. But like I said, adding that speedster opens the field up. I mean, Aaron Rodgers almost has so many options. I mean, it stretches the field just having that speedster there. I mean, giving Devontae Adams room to work. I don't know why Green Bay didn't pull the trigger on any of these guys. Any of them.
You and me both. But with that, we're finished talking about this fucking NFL trade deadline. Hopefully the season gets better and gets more interesting for the second half of the season. But we're going to shift over to college football. Trevor Lawrence, everyone's saving grace in college football. He missed last game against Boston College because his ass caught COVID, and they almost lost. They were able to pull off a victory by, a ball hair, coincidentally, since this ball is deep. But they pulled out a close one against Boston College, and their next opponent is Notre Dame, who's a top 10 opponent. And
currently, I think ranked number 4.
Yeah, so they're top 5, top 10 opponent. Which is, they're no scrub, and you're not going to have Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is not playing that game. So my question to you is, what happens if they lose? Like, do they get the Bama treatment?
I think it's similar. It's tough. It's really tough. I think it's more based on. It's based more on the score than it is win or lose. I mean, it's kind of similar to what we were talking about with Bama and Georgia, but maybe even to even a higher extent there, because losing your head coach is tough, but having lost your quarterback, who obviously everybody loves that guy. I mean, like you said, he's the saving grace. He's the best quarterback in college football. I don't think so, but
I don't think so either. I think he's a great quarterback.
He's a great quarterback.
But I think everyone's riding his dick, and they seem to be overlooking the other talent.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a slight on him to say that. I just don't think he is. But to lose your quarterback is a lot more than losing your coach. So I think it just more so depends on the score. I mean, it's really tough. I feel like for them to be able to judge it regardless. Because even if it's a blowout, he's a great quarterback. But it depends on how many points is this blowout. If you're talking about a 2-touchdown game, 2 touchdowns more than capable of making up with a guy like Trevor Lawrence, you might take that into account. If we're talking, 3 touchdowns plus, or even, if we're talking 3+ scores, it might become a different story. So I think it more so depends on how close or not close this game ends up being. Really is dependent on, either way. I think Clemson drops out of the playoff race if they lose this game. However, I think, like I say, depending on how close or not close this game is, depends on how far they drop and how much of an opportunity they have to prove the rest of the season. Okay, we definitely belong. We lost because it was Trevor Lawrence wasn't there. We're more than capable of beating Notre Dame. And if they do lose this game, they're going to have to go out and, win every game.
They got to win out.
And, win out and leave no doubt that they belong in that playoff. Same thing I said with Georgia or Bama.
Yeah, so I think they're going to get the Bama treatment. I do think Notre Dame's going to pull off the victory. I don't know by how much. I would hope they blow them out for the simple fact that they don't have their best player. And that defense has looked very sketchy. And I think a lot of their flaws on defense was covered up because of their offense, with Trevor Lawrence having a big year. But I do think Notre Dame pulls off the victory, and they move up in the rankings. And I do think both teams end up making the college football playoffs, to say the least. I do think. I'm not sure if they're going to have championship games, but with Notre Dame being in the ACC this season, I do think these teams will meet again. and hopefully Trevor Lawrence will be on the field. And if he is, I do think Clemson comes out on top. I do think it'll be a good game even with him there, but I do think I think that they will make the playoffs, especially if they get to play them again in the ACC championship. But I have both of them making the playoffs at the moment, with Notre Dame picking up the win this time around, and we shall see how that works out moving forward. But I do think they'll get the Bama treatment, regardless, win or lose.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if by some chance, I mean, I don't think this has to be said, but if by some chance Notre Dame ends up losing this game, even with, Clemson's best player being out, there's no way Notre Dame makes this playoff.
Hell no.
I don't think there's any way.
They have to win this game.
Yeah,
it's literally the one game that they need to win to make the playoffs. They could have lost any other game, but if they beat Clemson, they're making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. They have to win in order to make the playoffs. But that's why I'm predicting that they both make it, because I'm assuming that they win.
No, if they face again, yeah.
But my assumption could be wrong, because Etienne can go off. This quarterback that played big for them in the second half could go off. We both shall see. You never know. But we're gonna end up taking a break right here, and we're going to talk about some boxing and UFC after the break. So we'll be back with more Balls Deep.
Yo, what's up, everybody? King Triple C here, the Olympic champ, the flyweight champ, and the bantamweight champion of the world. In other words, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Man, that's right. Anyhow, I want to give a special shout out to Devin and Jovan. I know you guys have started your podcast, Balls Deep, with Devin and Jovan. I want to congratulate you guys, and I want to tell everybody that's out there that doesn't know about them to you guys follow them, subscribe to them, and you guys make sure to follow them on all your social media platforms, because if you don't, you guys can bend the knee to Triple C.
Welcome back to more Balls Deep. We're going to talk about boxing. We're talking about Gervonta Davis KO against Leo Santa Cruz. He had an insane uppercut knockout and a very close fight. What do you think? What do you think about the fight? What do you think about the knockout?
That knockout came out of left field, because Leo Santa Cruz was actually winning that round, and next thing you know, that uppercut came across the globe and fucking slumped his shit, because it's like he froze time and fucking hooked it underneath so far just to knock his ass out. And like those cartoons or those shows where like it's super dramatic where they fly back. That's what I pictured. But that man. But the funniest shit I seen on that shit, it was because it was on Halloween Day. If you guys watch like Disney cartoon movies, and specifically Coco is about the Day of the Dead. It's about a Mexican holiday. On Twitter, I seen that someone said Leo Santa Cruz almost saw Mama Coco after that knockout. And when I say I was fucking crying, that shit had me laughing to the point where I shared it with my girlfriend, who doesn't really watch boxing, and she fucking was laughing.
That's hilarious,
bro.
No, I mean, it was definitely a crazy knockout. I mean,
it was a crazy knockout, and it just makes me even more excited to see him against Ryan Garcia. We don't know when that will happen. The fans want to see it, but I want to see it because I know damn well that's not happening to Ryan Garcia. Just because he's super fast and his defense. But it's Ryan Garcia's got to go prove himself before that fight could even be made.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was crazy because, like you said, he was losing that round. Even the commentator was just about to say, oh, Gervonta Davis thought he was going to lay down to his power or something. And he just hit like, mid-sentence, just stopped because he hit him with that uppercut. Straight knockout, no count. It was just over. Like, everybody knew it was over. That was a wild knockout. And like you said, it makes me even more excited for that Garcia fight because we know the speed and the defense that Garcia has. I'm curious to see, how well he does in terms of power against a fighter like Gervonta Davis. I mean, he's been capable of knocking dudes out. We've seen that, along with his speed. But is his power really going to translate to a guy like Gervonta Davis? We have to see how his power goes against the chins of, guys higher ranked in those divisions and, bigger name fighters and guys who have been hit before and hit hard.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm so mad about, we talked about this fight in, I think, July. It was probably it was an early episode. And we talked about it when it was announced. It was supposed to happen at Mohegan Sun. It was supposed to happen October 24th at Mohegan Sun, and they postponed the fight by a week just so they can move the venue to Texas so they can have 25% of fans in attendance. I'm happy there was fans in attendance to enjoy that knockout because it was crazy, but I'm just thinking about what it would have been like to attend that fight. And I understand there's been big fights to happen at Mohegan Sun, but none bigger than this one. I think this one would have definitely knocked the doors down for other big boxing fights of this magnitude to happen. And I've never been to a boxing fight. I would have loved to have been to that boxing fight, especially after that knockout.
Yeah.
Seeing that knockout, it just made me even more angry knowing that it could have been in Connecticut and I could have been there.
Fucking COVID.
It made me sad. What Stephen A. Smith said?
I'm sad. No, actually, I'm quite devastated.
that was me. That was my mood. It still hits me. Yeah.
No, yeah, that was definitely a good fight. It was a good fight throughout. Davis was actually losing, but he ended up coming out with the knockout. I wish I could have seen it. I wish we could have both gone and seen it.
That would have been nice balls deep content, yo.
Definitely.
We would have been alive
But with that, we're gonna move on to another combat sport. We're gonna talk about UFC. Recently, it was announced that Adesanya is gonna fight Jan at light heavyweight for the belt and try to become a title holder in two divisions. Would be
a champ.
Eighth. Yep, would be the eighth fighter to win two UFC titles in two separate divisions. The initial plan was for him to have an Adesanya and Whitaker fight. Until obviously we had mentioned last episode Whitaker's post-fight comments of how he wasn't really looking forward to it.
He wasn't in a rush.
Wasn't in a rush. Dana White obviously took that in the same way that I did. He didn't want to fight him. So he's gonna fight Jan instead. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Dana White's comments specifically, he said it's the craziest shit he's ever heard. But I'm gonna stand pat and on my stance last time. I mean, yes, it's the craziest shit you would assume because usually after someone wins the number one contender fight, they want the championship fight ASAP. Like they want the title, especially someone that lost to him previously. They want their revenge and whatnot. But I just think he's not prioritizing it in his life. Like he knows it's gonna happen and he wants to fight him. He has a kid on the way, so he's looking forward to that. He just came off of victory, 2 victories at that, and he's just looking forward to what's next in life, and that's time with his family at the moment. But after seeing Blachowicz's win over Dominic Reyes, I was super impressed, and I'm interested to see how he pans out against Adesanya. We didn't get to see him against Jon Jones, and I think Adesanya is probably the closest he'll get to a Jon Jones fight, just because in terms of fight style and things like that. But I think Adesanya becomes the 8th champ in history. I think it happens. I'm interested to seeing how he, withstands his power though. That Polish power ain't no joke.
I definitely think Adesanya will be capable of keeping him at a distance. He's got the length. We know he uses a lot of leg kicks, to distance his opponents. So I think he's more than capable of winning the fight. But again, like you said, it's the power. I guess this is all part of Adesanya's, evil villain plan to face Jon Jones in the future. And he actually said that, if he wins the belt and Jon Jones wants to come down and get his belt back, great. If Jon Jones goes and Adesanya says by some chance, makes it sound like a miracle, wins the heavyweight title, then he'll go up and he'll win that belt too and be a 3-division champ.
The first to ever do it.
He must be smoking rocks. I don't think
he's smoking what Jon Jones is smoking.
Definitely. Because I don't think he's beating Jon Jones at light heavyweight, and I think at heavyweight Jon Jones mauls him. So I don't think he wants to see Jon Jones at either weight class. I think he's trolling at this point. And I'm gonna be real. Izzy's gonna deny it constantly to trolls or to people on the internet who say it. But in my opinion, I don't think he wants to fight Jon Jones as much as he says he does. I mean, he says, he wants fans. He says that's why he's waiting. He says he wasn't ready. Why? If you say you're gonna fight Jon Jones, you say you're gonna beat Jon Jones. Why are we doing this? Why are we?
I think if you wanted to fight Jon Jones so bad, it would already happen.
100%. We don't need a build up for Jon Jones and Adesanya. That's the biggest fight in the history of UFC. Period. Regardless of how long you have to wait, regardless of who's holding a belt, regardless of any of that. That's the biggest fight in the history of UFC ever. So we don't need this.
It makes sense that he wants fans, though.
He doesn't need. That makes sense, but he doesn't need to fight Jan. Why are we not having this fight right now? Why isn't that? Why is that not their next fight? Why is Jon Jones and Adesanya not fighting right now? Because Jon Jones said it, signed the paper.
And
Adesanya
to be honest, I don't think we ever see this fight, and I think even I have Adesanya winning the belt and becoming champ, but I don't think that's enough to lure Jon Jones back to light heavyweight. I think he moved up to heavyweight and he's staying heavyweight to the end of his career. I don't really see him moving back down. I think if he wants to move back down, this would be the fight to do it, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I think Adesanya is going to keep talking out his ass because he knows it's not going to happen. Would I love to see it happen? Of course. I think it would be a great fight. I told you I would actually like to see him win this light heavyweight title, Jon Jones to win the heavyweight title. And I wish it was like boxing where, they could fight for all the titles all at once. But I told you as well, the only way I see this fight happening is at light heavyweight. I don't really see Adesanya moving up to heavyweight. I think that's kind of out of his league. But hey, I think that we're not ever going to see this fight happen just because I think Jon Jones is going to laugh at him after the fact that he wins the title and calls him out. I think he's going to laugh it off and just say, keep talking. You're not ready. And I honestly, I agree with you. I think Jon Jones is too much for him.
I don't think Jon Jones needs this fight. Jon Jones does not need this fight at all.
He's solidified as the GOAT at the moment.
100%. And the only thing that he can do to maybe make his, his presence felt even more or add to his legacy is go to heavyweight. And if Adesanya wants to follow him there, then great. And that's the only way I see that fight happening. But at the end of the day, I agree. I don't know that this fight does happen for sure. I think Adesanya will call him out. Jon Jones is going to be uninterested. He'll probably end up retiring, and then that's where Izzy's going to start saying he's scared, he's ducking him, this and that. But Jon Jones said, fight me right now, already. He's already said sign the paper. So why is it that Adesanya is fighting, opponent after opponent? Fight Jon Jones. You've been calling him out for like your last three fights. Fight Jon Jones.
It's funny because I forget who the fighter was, but he fought for a fight night, and he called out Adesanya after his win, and he basically said that he likes him as a fighter, but he's a fan, and he as much as he's a fan, he wants to beat him. So he just sounds stupid. And I think that's the same way he, was talking about that fighter is the same way I see Adesanya with Jon Jones. I think he's a fan of Jon Jones, and I think as much as he's a fan, he wants to beat him for his legacy specifically. But I think that's why he's talking out his ass. But I don't see the execution actually ever happening. But if it does happen, I'll be one happy fan.
Oh, definitely. And like I said, I just feel like at this point, Adesanya is starting to win. He started to win. He's champion now. He's going up to another division to possibly be double champ. I feel like he's forgotten what it means to be humble, and he needs somebody to humble him. And Jon Jones is willing to do it. And at this point, it's up to Adesanya to sign the paper, and he signed the paper for another fighter. So
Yeah.
I mean, what does that really tell you?
But I think this is a smart move by Adesanya. I'm not saying that he's. I think this is a smart move prior to a fight with Jon Jones, just because you're gonna receive that power from someone of his size that you've probably never felt before. And I think we both imagine him to feel the wrath from Paulo Costa in their fight, because he's probably the biggest fighter that he's fought outside of Joel Romero, who has shoulders on his shoulders. But I think that what is going to be a testament of what he can withstand and really show if he can fight someone of Jon Jones' caliber. But I'm a fan of Adesanya, especially after his last couple fights. I was not a fan of that Joel Romero fight, and it was because there wasn't much action to really enjoy.
Yeah.
But I think he's a really talented fighter. He's very impressive, and he's only getting better.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I love Izzy. I mean, I'll be the first to say it. And so me saying this about him being, not wanting to fight Jon Jones, it's not a slight to Izzy. I think he's a great fighter. He has the potential to be one of the greatest ever. But like I said, I mean, I just think, I don't even think it's a matter of stand-up. I think if they fight, Jon Jones even said it. He's not gonna do like everybody else. He's not gonna stand there and kickbox with him. Jon Jones is gonna take Izzy down, and he's gonna maul him. And he's just gonna be on him as long as it takes. I mean, once Jon Jones gets a hold of him, he's not gonna be able to get up. Because, I mean, if Gastelum was able to take Izzy down, imagine what Jon Jones is gonna do.
The only way Izzy wins against Jon Jones is if he goes balls deep. And that's it. Let's wrap it up. That's the end of this episode of Balls Deep with Devin and Jovan. And just make sure, go follow us on all social media platforms. We did, just announce a quick little update. Every episode, every Friday. New episode every Friday. And if you're interested in, our NFL pick'ems on the season, check us out every Saturday. So we appreciate you guys. And like I said in that post, make sure to comment. We want to interact with you guys. Maybe even talk about some of the topics that you guys are interested in hearing. And if you're interested in being on the show, hit us up. We might have a slot for you in the future. We could try to make that happen. So thanks again, as usual, for tuning in. If this is your first time, come back. If it's your your 100th time, even though we're not even on episode 100 yet, but we appreciate you. Keep coming back. We love you guys. But per usual, like I always said, we appreciate you. Thank you, and have a good one. Until next time.
Peace.
You're talking about balls deep.
I'm talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep.
My boy's talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love.